Okay, welcome back to my kitchen. My husband's got the potatoes. I'm going to turn you a little bit. They're ready to go. They're self-explanatory. They weren't all that great, so we'll see how those come out tonight. This doesn't make a whole lot of gravy, so if you're going to be looking for a lot of gravy, you're going to have to make additional if you want more gravy. This makes enough for 2 people. Sometimes you can even get more than 4. So the next step, my pork chops have been in the microwave, just chilling out for the last hour. Now is the time, about a half an hour, about half an hour to 20 minutes before you want to fry is when you want to start flouring your pork chops. And these are still pretty cold. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our pork chops out of the bag, and you're going to discard the bag. You always, if you have a food saver that has meat in it, never try to reuse it, because you won't be able to reseal anything. I'm just rinsing my hands. So for this part, what you're going to need is paper towel. You're also going to want all-purpose flour. It doesn't have to be King Arthur. I did a whole video on this. This is a 12-pound sack of flour that I got at my local Costco. What you're going to do is, and this might seem like a lot of flour, but you'll understand once I do it why I'm using so much flour. Pardon me, my necklace has a habit of doing it. I'm going to probably do just about a cup. You don't need to measure this out perfectly. If you go a little over a cup, if you go a little under a cup, totally fine. You don't need to do that or worry about the right measurements. So on my plate here, and I'm going to tip you over, is my flour. To this, what we're going to do, and then once you've measured out a cup of flour, you're just going to seal up your flour and put that off to the side, because you will not be using the flour anymore. Now, what you're going to want is both salt and pepper. And you're going to give your flour a pretty good dash of the pepper. And in a second, I will show you what I mean. Hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, that's all pepper. To this, you're not going to add a ton of salt, but you're going to put about maybe a tablespoon. And I don't know if you can see this. That's where all the salt is. Now, I've got a spoon. I'm going to try to do this so you guys can see it. All you're going to do is you're just going to mix this up. Now, if you want a little bit more spicy or a little bit more kick to it, you can add a little cayenne pepper. You could add a little bit if you want a little bit, let's say you want a little garlic to your pork chops. You could put a little garlic salt, but keep in mind, whatever you do to the flour, you're going to save the flour after you do the pork chops. I'm going to add a little bit more pepper to this because it didn't really get coated. And then just do a mix. Don't add too much salt to this. Otherwise it can get really salty and you're not going to notice until you actually start eating the meat, and then you're going to be like, oh my God, this is really salty. Okay, so your flour should take a little bit of this. Now, what you're going to do, I'll put my salt and pepper back on the stove where they belong. Okay, with your paper towel, what you're going to do is you're just going to pat your meat. You're going to make sure your meat is dry on both sides. So let me do that. I'm going to try to move you guys, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this as long as my one dog doesn't get in the way. Let me move that. Okay, so we've got one side. We're just going to flip over the paper towel, and I'm actually going to step out of the frame for 1 second. I'm just going to grab an additional paper towel. And you're just going to pat these dry. Now, normally if I was going to throw these on the grill, not in the fry pan. We're talking about the fry pans today. But if I was going to grill this, after I do this step, I would drizzle a little olive oil on it and then put my seasoning or my rub on it. We're not going to do that this time. This is solely going to be floured. Bella, get off of there because you knocked my phone over. I won't be able to do the video. Bella, stop. Okay, so I'm going to grab our plate with our flour. That's right here. Basically what you're going to do is you're just going to allow the pork chop to get coated. And you're going to do this for both sides, and I'll show you what they should look like. They should look like this on both sides. So if you've got any coating, don't worry about the side of the meat because you're not going to be able to brown that when you brown. So you're just going to do the 2 main sides. And let me... And this is also good when you have paper towel because you can also, if you have some pork juice on the plate that they've been sitting on, you can wipe that out and then throw your paper towel out. I'll do that in a minute because right now my phone is sitting on the garbage can, so I can't do that. So just put these back on the plate. And like I said, you can use your hands if they're clean. Make sure to always clean your hands. And again, front and back. You want to do that. Now, you're going to let these hang out for about 20 to 30 minutes. Any longer, whatever you do not put these back in the refrigerator. If you put these back in the refrigerator, your flour mixture on your pork chops is going to get really, really runny, and it's not going to work. The cold temperature will not allow the meat to just absorb. So we're going to put them back in the microwave for ½ an hour. Now, instead of throwing this flour out, what I'm going to tell you to do, and this is a great thing to have, are these measuring cups. This happens to be a 4-cup. This is my smaller 2-cup, and then I have even smaller. I have a 1-cup up there, but you're going to want the 4-cup. Just because there is a lot of flour. Now, you only do this for gravy. Do not do this, do not save this flour. If you don't want gravy, get rid of the flour, but so you're not taking fresh. Use the flavor. This already has salt and this already has pepper in it. So when you go to make your gravy, and I'll show you that step once the pork chops are through cooking, it's really easy, but you already have your seasoning in your flour, so you don't need to add more until you try. Then if you're like, well, this doesn't have a lot of salt in it, then add a little bit more salt while the gravy's cooking. And you do it all in the same fry pan. So what I do, and don't leave your flour on the plate. Put it in the measuring cup. Make sure you keep this out of children's hands, otherwise it'll go all over the place. Also, it's good to let your spouse know what you're doing, because I did this one time and my husband thought I wasn't going to use flour, and he poured it into the garbage can. And I was like, where's my flour for gravy? And I had to start over. Okay, this is going to give you pretty much a cup of flour, which is fine. You can have, you may not use it all, but it's all ready to go. And then what you're going to do is you're not going to do anything with this right now. You're going to put this off to the side. And you're going to kind of forget about it for the time being. Now, in the same time, I'm going to see if I can do this. Okay. Yeah, you get a good view. I'm going to be out of you're going to see my chest out of view. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the fry pan. You can, oh, wait. Ah, there it is. I always have a hard time seeing where this goes. So, fry pans usually don't take all that long to heat up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that. You're going to want to put your fry pan past the if your fry pan is able to go past the 400 point, you're going to allow it to heat up. So mine goes all the way to 450. I'm going to keep it at that setting. So at this point, you're not going to add your oil into the pan. Don't add your oil and let it heat up. Don't worry. I'll show you what happens once the pan... Actually, you know what? I take that back. Forget what I just said. Go ahead and add your oil. And do a generous coating of oil. That was about maybe a half a cup, maybe a little bit more. And I'm going to show you on the inside. There's my oil. You can see it's covering the entire bottom. That's what you want. Now, you might say, oh my God, this is going to be really oily. Yes and no. This is where the water is going to come in. And we're not going to do the water right away. We've just got the oil in the pan warming. Now, if you're doing more than 2 pork chops, we're only doing 2 because there are only 2 of us here tonight. So I don't need to do a lot of oil. If you are frying more than 2 pork chops, if you're frying 4 pork chops or, well, actually, you could probably, in this type of frying pan, only get 4. It will fit 4 tightly, but it'll fit 4. You might want to go with a little bit more oil. But what you're going to do is you're just going to let this get temperature, and you can cover it with the lid. You don't need to worry about grease fires. This will not usually start on fire, but we'll check on it. So I'm going to let this heat up. You guys will be right back. Or I'll be right back.